the unions, there were people from the union who came to visit me in the hospital, and I asked one of them, I said, has anybody written a report on my accident yet? And they said, well, yeah, probably. I said, well, I'd really like to get a copy. So they send me this copy, and in it says it's my own fault because I didn't listen to the men and get the hell out of the trade. And I just about flipped. And that was just, I mean, here the union came down on me. It was just too much. Well, I got the report, I read the report, I talked to Megan and Terry Bach, in the hospital, and there was a meeting coming up, and I says, go to that meeting, put this on the floor, put a motion to, to have it rescinded, and so they did, but of course it was only their 2 votes against everybody else in the membership.
What was that about?
Well, because in the time that I think I mentioned this before, but in the time that we were gone from City Light, Local 77 had gone out on strike. They had an unsuccessful strike. People were very bitter and demoralized when we came back to work, which also, I think, contributed to some of the problems that we had with working with people. Nobody ever voiced it, but, in some ways, we fought the good fight and we won. They fought, but they didn't win. And, I think, even though, like I said, that was never verbalized, you'd have to wonder, that somehow, here we come back to work, we're reinstated, we get back wages, we win a case, we beat the boss, and they couldn't. And I think that was a hard thing for them. So anyway, Megan and Terry go to the union meeting, and they put the motion on the floor, and of course it's their 2 votes to everybody else's.
Not a 1, that's outrageous.
As I recall, it was not a 1, and so we kind of let that go for then, and then when I got home, when I got out of the hospital and I got home, it was still bugging me. I really wanted to do something about it, and I started calling people. Well, actually, I did call people in the hospital, and they said, "Oh no, I'm not interested. I don't want to do that." So I kept thinking about it. And I tried talking to people. Well, one day this guy came to visit me. His crew was working close by. He had actually come from the Midwest as a lineman to City Light. He was very supportive of us. I never worked with him, but I did work with him a little bit as an apprentice. And he was a nice man. Anyway, he came to see me. And I said to him, this report is not right. Lou, this report is not right. And I says, I really want to do something about it. And he said, well, I think you're right. He says, I agree with you. And that was the beginning. And out of that, I got a committee of about 6, 7 guys. We met at my house, we talked about it. They went again to the union hall, to a union meeting. They put a motion on the floor. The vote was so close to have that report taken out of the records. If they had called for a division of the House, they maybe would have won it. But again, the motion, wasn't successful. And we ended up going to the executive board. And I went with a couple of other guys, and they presented the case. And the guy who was president at the time said to me, have you ever talked to Danny Haw, the man who wrote this report? He said, have you ever talked to Danny Haw about it? And I said, no. I signed on to an open letter that was distributed by myself and my sisters to the local. I didn't have to do that. He says, well, why don't you take him out to, have you ever considered taking him out to dinner and using your womanly charms on him? And I said, no. I said, quote unquote, I don't care who you sleep with to carry on your business, but that's not how I do mine. So at that point, we'd fought the fight, and the only thing that was left that could be done would do it in some kind of a legal manner. And I decided that it was not worth it to sue the union.